The Honourable Member for Canberra.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I also rise in support of the Criminal Code Amendment Sexually Explicit Deepfakes Bill 2024. This important bill will ban the non-consensual sharing of deepfake sexually explicit material, something which is a serious and growing concern that is very sadly already impacting Australians who have fallen victim to this new technological abuse. Digitally created and altered sexually explicit material is a vile and damaging form of abuse that can inflict deep harm on victims. Young people in particular are at risk of image-based abuse. The internet has changed dramatically in recent years, with new social media apps constantly popping up, changing platforms that are increasingly showing children and young adults damaging content. Further, the rise of artificial intelligence, while potentially an incredibly useful tool in work or study, has the potential to be increasingly harmful. The children of today are digital natives. They have never lived in a world where the internet and social media doesn't exist. Older generations have learned new technologies as we move into the workforce and engage with many of these new apps. However, without the innate knowledge of being on the internet from as young as a toddler, as Gen Zers do, they inherently understand and use social media. And I see this with my own very young children, the way they've adapted very quickly at a very young age to these sorts of technologies. With the onset of new social media and the wide range of AI platforms now available, new ways of subjecting particularly women and girls to assault and harassment have disgustingly infiltrated their way into society. And Deputy Speaker, we must act now to ensure that we can end violence against women and girls within one generation, as our government has committed to. Specifically, this bill amends the Criminal Code to modernise and strengthen offences targeted to non-consensual sharing of sexually explicit material online, including material that has been digitally created or altered. This bill also includes aggravated offences which will build on the underlying offence for people who have created or altered the material that has been transmitted. The reforms in this bill make clear that those who share sexually explicit material without consent using technology like artificial intelligence will be subject to serious criminal penalties. The new offences will have a maximum penalty of 6 years imprisonment for transmitting sexual material without consent and 7 years imprisonment for aggravated offences, including where the person created the material. These amendments are high-priority reforms following the government's public commitment on the 1st of May this year to introduce a suite of measures to tackle online harms, particularly those targeting women and young girls. These new offences will place a high burden on anyone who thinks to perpetuate this kind of abuse. It is another step that the Albanese government is taking to protect women and girls from horrific online attacks. Sexually explicit deepfakes, which are created and shared without consent, are used to degrade and dehumanise victims. They primarily target women and can perpetuate harmful gender stereotypes and drive gender-based violence. When they are shared with others or posted online without the consent of the person depicted, it is a serious breach of a person's privacy and can have lasting physical and psychologically harmful impacts on victims. Image-based violence and abuse is not a new phenomenon. Currently, the Criminal Code criminalises the sharing of private sexual material online. There has also been a decades-long discussion of how sharing private sexual material, often called revenge porn, revenge porn has been criminalised in every state and territory and the Commonwealth, with the exception of Tasmania. This has ensured that people who are victims of that form of image-based abuse can receive restitution for the harm that they have been through, and perpetrators can be charged. However, the current definition of private sexual material does not adequately cover deepfake images or other artificially generated material. This bill proposes to repeal the existing offence relating to private sexual material and replace it with a new offence that applies where a person transmits material using a carriage service, where the material depicts a person who is or appears to be 18 years of age or older, where the material depicts or appears to depict a person engaging in a sexual pose or sexual activity or particular parts of their body, where the person knows that this person depicted does not consent to the transmission of the material or is reckless to whether the other person consents. Oh, thank you. The bill also introduces two aggravated offences which apply increased penalties to the offence, where before the commission of the underlying offence, 3 or more civil penalty orders were made against the person for contraventions of relevant provisions of the Online Safety Act 2021, and the person was responsible for the creation or alteration of the sexual material transmitted. These amendments are essential to assure that our laws can apply to both real material, such as unaltered images and recordings, and fake or doctored material that has been created or altered using AI or other technology. The bill sets out specific defences to the transmission of the sexual material without consent to ensure the offence is targeted and proportionate. The new offences will not cover private communications between consenting adults or interfere with private sexual relationships. It's about sharing with other people or more broadly. They will also only apply to material depicting or appearing to depict adults. The Criminal Code continues to criminalise the use of carriage services for child abuse material, including child abuse material generated by artificial intelligence. Deputy Speaker, I am proud to be part of a government that is aiming to end gender-based violence in a generation. Our government's work is guided by the National Plan to End Violence Against Women and Children. The plan sets out how all parts of society, including governments, businesses and workplaces, media, schools and educational institutions, the family, domestic and sexual violence sector, communities and all individuals must work together to achieve this shared vision. In the recent budget, our government permanently established the Leaving Violence program, so those escaping violence can receive financial support, safety assessments and referrals to support pathways. The Leaving Violence program is support victim survivors of intimate partner violence to make informed choices about leaving violent relationships and ensures they are receiving the vital support they need. Our government has also funded a pilot of age assurance technology to protect children from harmful content like pornography and other age-restricted online services. The new pilot is part of a suite of interventions aimed at curbing easy access to age-inappropriate material by children and young people and tackling extreme misogyny online. Education is such an important part of the prevention of gender-based violence. That's why our government is funding a new phase of the Stop It at the Start campaign. This new phase will specifically include a counter-influencing campaign in online spaces where violent and misogynistic content thrives, to directly challenge the material in the spaces where it's being viewed. The campaign is intended to counter the corrosive influence of online content targeted at young adults that condones violence against women. It will raise awareness about a proliferation of misogynistic influences and content and encourage conversations within families about the damaging impact of the material. Deputy Speaker, the disturbing reports we heard out of Victoria last month, where over 50 girls were subjected to sexually explicit deepfake photos of them spread around their school, indicates how important it is for our government to act now. Criminalising deepfake sexually explicit images is the next step we can take to ensure that vulnerable people are protected online. Sexually explicit deepfake images can affect everyone, from major celebrities to school students. For each person subjected to image abuse online, it is a harrowing and life-altering experience. As technology develops at a never-seen-before rate, our laws must protect vulnerable people from new forms of abuse. No one should ever be subjected to any form of abuse, and this bill is how our government is working to ensure that future generations are kept safe online. And I must say, as a mother of young children, just how important this is and how concerning. I suppose as my staff that drafted this described as an older generation, which I guess so, you know, we are not exposed from such a vulnerable and young age. We have not lived through that in the way that our children's generation are. The idea that young girls could have these faked images spread around their school, just to think about the impact that that will have on those girls for the rest of their lives, is why this bill is so incredibly important. And as I've said, our government is wanting to end gendered violence, gender-based violence in a generation. And it doesn't just exist. You know, the online abuse is a really important part of that. This deepfake AI-generated or altered pornography is something that we first saw affecting celebrities, but now it's affecting children in our schools. And so I'm very proud that our government is taking this action now, taking this seriously and putting an end to it. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Order. I thank the honourable